Hi, everyone. Today it is my pleasure to speak to Garrett Marigut about the 6 data-validated tactics to increase qualified lead volume. Garrett is the CEO and co-founder of Directive, a performance marketing agency for SaaS companies. Garrett is also a thought leader and a speaker. And today he'll share with us the 6 tactics that have been battle-tested across 60-plus accounts over the last 12 months. And have statistically proven to increase his SaaS clients' qualified lead volume. Welcome to the show, Garrett.
I'm glad to be here. Excited to chat with you.
Yeah. So tell us, how did you get started working with SaaS founders and the whole software industry?
Yeah, about 6 years ago, I was selling social media calendars on Fiverr, and I figured out how that worked, and I kind of bet my buddy that I could make $1,000 working less than an hour a day, and did really well on Fiverr just for fun. And then I wanted to go into consulting, so I applied to Boston, Bain, McKinsey. I did my degree in econ in 3 years. I did my master's in a year. I thought, okay, I'm a prime candidate. I love consulting, and I got auto denied on all of that. So I was like, darn it, all right, I'll start my own agency. So kind of looked in the mirror and was like, hey, what do people think I'm good at? And because I was young, I figured they knew I knew the internet. And so I decided to get good at internet marketing. So I kind of dove into all the different aspects of it. And the one that I found to be the most valuable and that I thought I could charge the most for and drive the most value around was search marketing. So SEO and PPC. So yeah, I eventually kind of started an SEO and PPC firm. And fast forward to where we are today.
That is some crazy stuff. So let's dive into talking about specifically how the things that you are doing at your agency. And by the way, that's a pretty sizable agency, right? How many people you have on your team?
Yeah, we have around 40 people right now. We used to be at around 70, but we downsized headcount but grew revenue. We work mostly with mid-market and enterprise. We've gotten to work with really large brands and a lot of large SaaS accounts that people outside of SaaS don't know. Kind of that's the nature of B2B SaaS. But yeah, honestly, we have amazing accounts, a really strong team, great management structure here. So it's fun.
Cool. So let's dive right in, talking about the tactics that you want to share with us. Where do we start?
Yeah, based on who your audience is and a lot of solo founders or, small founding teams, funded startups that are trying to get traction. I think one of the first things that I found as a value is that perception is reality. And so what I found is there's hot new startups right now like Rome Research, right? Terrible website, but really great product, cult-like following, and everybody thinks they can be like that. The reality is that's the exception, not the rule. Most SaaS companies, what they really do need to start on at first is making sure that their website looks more beautiful than their product, because every user in the world assumes the quality of your product based on the quality of your website. In other words, if you're a SaaS company and you're doing self-onboarding and you're doing free trials or whatever that is, they're going to assume that your product is as good as your website. So if you have a crappy website that looks old and dated or not organized, they're going to think your product's kind of crappy. So one of the first things is really making sure, that we have a great web presence and a strong website.
Cool. But then a strong website is nothing without getting traffic to that. So what about that?
Yeah, no. So the game for traffic is always interesting. So one of the most important things when you're thinking about acquiring new customers, especially the SaaS organization, right, is what's your LTV CAC ratio. And every channel when it comes to acquisition has different ratios. So for example, paid search is going to have a higher implied cost than SEO, and then social is going to have a lower implied cost than paid search. But we have to be able to have a mix, right? So we want to be able to have future investments that'll theoretically drive increasing marginal returns like SEO. So the way to think about SEO from an ROI standpoint is it's an initial sunk cost. So you create one piece of content, and then every net new lead, trial, customer, demo, whatever it is you're targeting that occurs after that hits against the initial investment of the labor to create the content, okay? And so essentially, you have increasing marginal returns from SEO. Simultaneously, you actually have, at a per unit level, diminishing marginal returns from paid search. Because every time a new competitor enters an auction, they rise up on the CPC by usually a greater margin than you can, at the same time, increase your conversion rate by driving decreasing marginal returns. So we want to create this marketing mix where we have our advertising efforts and then we have our organic efforts, and both are theoretically driving new trials or leads. Does that make sense?
I think it does. So that would be our tactics number 2, right?
I think, conceptually what I think most of these SaaS founders are struggling with is how to go to market. Like, how do they actually play this game, right? Like, the go-to-market strategy for a lot of SaaS founders is product hunt. That's it. It's just like, get on product hunt. That's my go-to-market strategy. And there's more to it. And I think the piece that everybody, I think, misses is they don't invest in third-party review sites. So that's Capterra, Software Advice, G2, Finances Online, GetApp, etc. So if you're trying to drive users for your SaaS organization, what I recommend is that you try to get from your trial signups, from your users, whoever that is, we want to get as many reviews as possible. Those reviews are going to allow us to create a perception that our startup is more trustworthy, validated, and larger, maybe even than some legacy players who haven't invested in this space. So what I always say is, like, how many reviews do you need to have not the worst of the top 5? So the top 5 people on a list, how can you make sure you're at least 4th in total amount of reviews? And once you have that, now you can position yourself to be discovered when there's purchase intent. So someone's looking for sales forecasting software. They search best sales forecasting software, Capterra, G2, Software Advice, whatever ranks there. Now you want to make sure that you're showing up in the top 5 on that site. You've got great reviews, and immediately you have a go-to-market strategy that allows you to satisfy purchase intent for the problem or pain point that your product solves. And so by doing that, it's really, really powerful. And that's kind of discoverability.
So let's be honest, for smaller SaaS companies, probably with revenue under 20K, they will not even be listed on those websites. So then the founders, and that can be a part of the SEO strategy, right? Where you're getting those backlinks from those websites that have at least all of those where you can leave reviews for those softwares. This can be your SEO strategy where you basically go and list yourself, your tool in all of those platforms. Do not expect just to appear there if you are a pretty small company.
Yeah, you have to go get listed, and I call this paying for SEO. So it's the concept that instead of trying to make your website rank against these really large legacy competitors who have a ton of content and you don't have any and you have no backlinks, you have no authority, it's going to be hard to rank, what we usually do is we say, cool, let's pay for our SEO. Let's treat SEO as an advertising channel, and then at a lower cost per click or a lower cost per month, position you to be discovered so you're ranking in the top 5 for all your primary keywords through your brand. Even though it's not your website, your brand is actually more powerful. And so that's the power of essentially focusing on this. And it works for enterprise. Like, we're working with a lot of publicly traded SaaS companies. And what we love to do is we help essentially evaluate all their channels on an LTV CAC ratio or on a cost per demo ratio. And then what we look at then is reallocating spend to where they have the lowest cost per demo or the best LTV CAC ratio. And then we can create scale. And so I'm talking where you're able to impact, $3 million in one quarter by just reallocating spend into the right channels. It's really powerful.
Got it. So majority of my listeners probably not going to be on that stage yet. Are there any tactics that would be applicable for smaller companies?
Well, all the tactics work is the funny part. So the beauty of all these tactics is you don't have to be a big company. The big company might be able to spend more, but that doesn't mean you can't do. So I have my own product, right? It's $99 a month, and it teaches people how to do SEO or PPC. Complete SaaS model, same pricing, all those things. What we even do is we're looking essentially to get on the lists. So when it says top 15 digital marketing courses, we'll reach out to the editor, we'll send them a gift box, we'll make sure they have a free access to our product, and then we'll get on the list. That right there has a very low cost per acquisition, no ongoing cost, and has been driving users. And so, for smaller organizations, what I'm finding to be the number one focus, at least in my own SaaS kind of startup internally, is we have to focus on activation. So what I mean by that is I like to ask one question. And if you can find what that one question is for your SaaS company, you can be hyper successful. So what that means is, so my SaaS product has a free trial. You get 4 free lessons before paying the $99 a month, okay? Very many SaaS companies, especially startups, have free trials. What unfortunately they don't do is they only ask for the firmographic information: name, company, title, number, email, and hit submit. We need to ask one more question that's unique to your company that we can create activation sequences by. So what we found is when we started this for Institute, our education product, we had a 2% activation rate. We were able to get 2% of our free trials to become paying customers. After adding the question, we're at 18% 2 months later. Okay? So our question is, what is your role currently? And then we have owner, student, in-house marketer, agency marketer, other, etc. Okay? And then what they answer by triggers their email sequence that they get. So if they say they're a student, it says, finally, the digital marketing course you never got in college, right? If you're an in-house marketer, it's wonder what your agency is always doing, right? Whatever that is, we address their pain points in our activation, and that's had by far the greatest effect on our LTV CAC ratio. Does that make sense?
So personalized email sequence is basically what did the trick and increased your conversion 10 times almost.
Oh, easily. More than that, yeah. Easily. So all we have to do is ask one question, and the trick is only one. So like for my services business, I ask, what service are you interested in? So whenever someone downloads an asset, before they can become a lead in our marketing automation system, I have to ask one question that allows for essentially sequencing that's customized per user. So for my service business, it's what service are you interested in? SEO, PPC, or both. However they answer puts them in a different track and sends them different information, and it drastically improves my ability to take people from leads to MQLs, MQLs to SQLs, and SQLs to opportunities, or for my trial product, from free trial to paying customer. And so it's critical you don't just get name, traditional information in email, but you ask one additional question that allows for personalization. And once you do that, you're going to experience exponential returns from very small effort, and all your other marketing campaigns increase their profitability almost immediately.
Let's brainstorm together. And can you share a couple of other examples of the same tactic that worked really well for other customer of yours, so that our listeners can get a better idea how they can think about this for their SaaS?
Yeah, give me a sample company. Give me a sample.
Let's say a SaaS company that is targeting marketing agencies.
Okay, so a SaaS company targeting marketing agencies, and let's say they sell a reporting solution.
Yep. Cool.
So what we'll then ask them, we can brainstorm here. So like one of the first things you might want to ask is title. And so that depends then if you know that your product. So you want to think of the use cases of your product by persona. So all you're trying to do right now is understand your persona or your use case or whatever it is that you drive value from. So let's say you're that marketing agency software, but you sell reporting, you sell time management, and you sell another feature. And you're trying to decide if you want to sell all three as a suite, or if you want to be able to sell all three as a suite or individualized. So you might want to ask, are you interested in time tracking, reporting, analytics, or all? And then from that, immediately you can do different activation. Or you can say, what's your role? And then you can say, cool, for CMOs, we're going to talk about this level of reporting. For marketing managers, we're going to talk about this level of reporting. For agency owners, we're going to talk about this level. So you have to find whatever that question is that allows you to create personalization without creating too much personalization. Because you don't want to ask a bunch of questions and get too personalized, because you're going to struggle to maintain the sequence. Once it gets to the 10th step, now that's 10 steps times however many options and paths you've created. So you're going to have to do 50 emails or 30 emails or 10 emails depending on how many paths you create. And it's a lot of times it's too hard to manage. So you want to find that sweet spot.
Got it. So probably to make it a little bit more manageable, especially at the beginning, think about 2 to 3 personas that you are selling to, and create specific use cases for each persona, and then create the activation sequence that's going to be beneficial for each persona.
Yeah, case studies, a blog post that's really in depth, resources, a guide, data, whatever that is, you all then make relevant to the needs of that individual, and you'll drastically improve your activation. And you get more marginal return from activation improvement than you do acquisition, which is really important for early stage companies.
Got it. What are some other tactics that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so, when I think about early stage organizations, I think one of the other things that they can do really well that most don't is PR. And usually people want to do PR around like, hey, we got money, and all their PR is funding PR. But you got to remember, there's no customer in the world who gives a crap about your funding. Nobody is like, oh my God, they closed 60 million. That's so good for me, right? Like, that's not how it works. And so what I recommend traditionally is creating essentially your expertise or your trustworthiness in the space by guest posting. So let's say you're a security product. Cool. Who at CIO can you build a relationship with so you can get published at CIO? Okay, you're a marketing software. Who do you know at Digiday, AdWeek, or Ad Age, or Moz, or SEMrush, or Ahrefs that you can get published? So like I personally have a relationship with almost every editor in the search marketing industry, and I've published for almost every one of their blogs. We do that on a consistent basis. And because of that, we now rank in the top 5 for almost all our keywords because we're able to link back to our service pages in our case, or in the SaaS company's case, their product pages. See, the reason guest posting, podcasting, like I'm on this podcast today, is so important is because you can usually control the link, the destination URL, the page it points back to. See, if you don't actively try to build links and do your PR, you end up getting links to this random blog post about 20 social media statistics and trends to be aware of, and you get a couple links and it ranks, but it makes you no money. See, the key is to guest post somewhere and then link back to your product pages or your feature pages that you're trying to rank for bottom of funnel purchase intent, and that allows you to do a lot better.
So really, when you're saying PR, I think a few people may just cringe because it just it has a bad rap. But really, it's like building authority, right, for the founder around the topic that your software solves the problem for.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
And you have to be able to do that, or else nobody really knows about you, nobody cares about you, and you traditionally don't have any money, right? So if the only thing you can leverage as a founder is your time and your expertise, the only way to create an ROI from time and expertise is through PR.
Cool. Give us a couple more.
Okay. I think your call to action is critically important for SaaS companies. So some of the biggest mistakes I see, and this is, you guys, we have SaaS companies, on massive retainers where we're managing hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend. And they all still do the same stuff when they come to us. So universally, request a demo is like the primary call to action in computer software, in SaaS. And it sucks. It doesn't work, okay? The reason request a demo stinks so bad is due to a concept that I call psychological friction. There's a ton of psychological implied friction when you ask a consumer to give you all their personal information, and in return, you give them nothing immediately. So think about what happens traditionally when you request a demo. What are some of the implied things that your customer brings into the idea of a demo? It's going to take an hour. This could suck because I've been on some bad ones. All I really want to know is price. I'm probably going to talk to a junior level person that still can't answer my questions. And it's really hard to get out of, and I'm probably going to want to blow my brains out halfway through. That's actually what people are thinking about when they see your request a demo button. So how can we do it different? So what we love to do is change that request a demo to watch free demo video. So what we do is we have their account executive or their videography team, whatever that is, either create a really good kind of motion graphic animation type demo video, or have a live action like an actual account executive delivering a demo of the product. You then gate that. So it's still a form, but the difference is now we give them a demo. We don't just say, hey, watch this demo video. We say below that, hey, it's a 5-minute demo video. You're going to learn about all its features. You're going to learn about use cases. We're going to essentially solve all the information you want immediately. Give us your information in return. You'll immediately solve your problem. Then sales development or account executive or founder, right, in this case, can call, follow up immediately, and have an exponentially better conversation where now the customer is saying, cool, I watched the demo video. I had a question about feature X. That is a 10 times better place to be than you trying to convince somebody who's never seen your product that it's valuable to them and all this other stuff. And we see incredible returns where I'm talking conversion rates go from 2% to 15% by just changing the call to action.
So that's very interesting. I recently had a conversation with another coach on this podcast talking about call to action. And it is funny that my husband, he has a SaaS, and we were doing just the demo part. And then in addition to doing demo, we've added a free trial because we didn't want to do that. It's pretty complicated. The tool is pretty complicated. So it's quite difficult for someone to do the trial on their own. But we still decided to do that. And what do you think? We've doubled our conversion. Yes, the quality of the leads may be less as well, but at the same time, with proper follow-up, that's just basically getting twice as many leads, right? And then in addition to what you said, another option to try is you can still have people request the demo, But then prior to you getting on the demo with them, send a mini demo of 5 to 10 minutes walkthrough, or at least the founder or someone explaining the benefits of the tool so that they come prepared and kind of bring their questions with them, and you don't have to go through the whole spiel from the very beginning.
Yeah, no, I think the big key here, right, is you're still gating the demo. You still have a demo, like request a demo form. Instead of using the language request a demo, though, it's watch demo video. Then they still have to unlock the demo video by submitting their information, which still goes to you as if you didn't. The only difference now is you're having a much better conversation. The user is self-identified their needs or their questions about your product. You can have a focused, deeper, smoother conversation, and your volume will double, triple, quadruple.
Cool. Are there any other questions that I didn't ask you, but I should have?
No, I think, all of this is great. I think the other thing that maybe, SaaS companies I don't think value enough is content. And they all kind of try to follow this kind of content thing that HubSpot does, where they have content pillars and they want a couple good pieces and then the clusters around it. I think that's okay. I think there's a better version, though, of doing the same thing. HubSpot can do that because they're HubSpot. And I don't think enough people give credence to that. Like, people read predictable revenue and they're like, wow, this is what Salesforce did. But yeah, they did that 15 years ago when email still worked different in outbound. Like, a lot of the stuff people just imply that because it worked historically, it'll work for you, or that it worked for some massive organization, it can work for you. But then they don't realize that HubSpot has probably 100,000 blog posts or whatever they have, and they have a different scale that allows for this strategy to have a different amplification for their brand. And so what I recommend for early stage SaaS companies is that they think about content clusters around their product and its features and its use cases. Okay, so for Institute, right, we have 40 lessons. So this quarter, we created 200 pieces of content around the 40 lessons. So essentially 5 pieces of content for each lesson. So what we did is we put the lesson, which is maybe how to do keyword research for PPC. We put PPC keyword research in SEMrush or Ahrefs, keyword research tool. Then we take the top 5 questions people ask, and we write 5 amazing articles about that. Then we put a call to action in each 5 of those 5 articles. We link back to that lesson page, and we essentially create a content cluster around all our lessons, since we make money on lessons, not people reading our how to do XY guide. And so I think one of the problems with the HubSpot pillar concept is that you're trying to rank around a cornerstone piece of content that's a lead gen engine that still actually isn't intrinsically associated with your product. So your ability to get people from lead to MQL is pretty poor. What you're better off doing is decreasing the distance between lead to MQL by creating clusters around your product and the pain points or features around it and how you solve those. And by doing so, you're able to drastically improve bottom of funnel traffic, which is where you're going to drive opportunities, deals, and revenue, and have a much more successful organic strategy.
I love it. A lot of people talk about the pillars and clusters the way that HubSpot thinks about this, but it is a long way to conversion that you want.
Yeah. It's just different if you're HubSpot. You can do that. Like, everything's free, trials. You have a sales CRM that's completely free. You have all these things that most SaaS companies don't have to monetize that strategy. And you have a massive amount of cash on hand to consistently essentially wait for that payback period, as well as to generate those leads through your funnel. And so most people don't have those liberties, and so the strategy doesn't actually translate to them and the amount of time they have available for it to work. The last thing that people should think about is their total addressable market. That's something I, 6 years in, never thought about until recently. But what I mean by that is, you can go into LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and you're a SaaS company, right, selling to marketing agencies on our previous example. And people, myself included, love to set goals that make no sense in reality. And there's actually a way to do this. So what you can do is you can look in the US for marketing agencies with a certain amount of company headcount employees and say, cool, there's 5,000 agencies in the US. Great, that's your accounts. So you don't need to sell all these crazy numbers, right? And then what you can do is you can say, cool, who's our persona at those agencies? Are there 2 people potentially that could be involved in this purchasing decision? So now you have a total addressable market of 10,000 people. Well, the reason that's so important is because how many impressions are you aiming for in your social campaigns? If you can't back it to actual reality, you're off in the distance daydreaming. Like, how much traffic do you need? Think about that. Like, how many people are trying to get 50,000 visitors a month to their website and have a total addressable market of 10,000 people? What are the chances that all 10,000 are searching every month for you? You see what I'm saying? Maybe you only need 5,000 visitors, but they have to be the right type. So many people put vanity metrics, especially around volume, on their goals without actually understanding their total addressable market, and create massive amounts of waste in their spend because they're trying to grow their ego more than their revenue because they haven't based their actual campaign to their total addressable market and then understand their reality. So that's just kind of, I think, one of the most important things that I never thought about. And I was a victim and I wasn't humble enough to catch on to. And I always wanted more and more and more without basing my more around how big my actual audience was, and then getting more focused on marketing to my audience instead of marketing to my ego. And when you get that under control, you're hyper effective.
To piggyback on that idea, sometimes I see founders also make a mistake that they start working on SEO, generating some content without checking, do people really search for this? And if the answer is no, you need to do a keyword search, volume research. And then if the answer is no, then SEO maybe not the best way for you to market that product. Maybe you need to go directly to those people and do an outreach campaign. So be cautious of that as well.
I love it. No, it's a great point.
What book was most impactful for you?
Oh, man. I almost read one a week, Natalie, so that's tough. I like Principles by Ray Dalio.
It's such a dense book. I don't think that I even finished it. I started reading it, and I actually put it my next year again. I'm going to reread it because it's so dense.
No, that's a good one. I like that one. A good one for the founders, for your audience, is The Great CEO Within. Really consumable book, and it's like a kind of like a practical guide to being a CEO. And I think most SaaS founders could probably use some help there, especially if they're on the technical side and they don't have a ton of experience in management. That could be really, really powerful for them. So yeah, those are two books.
Thank you. Where can listeners know more about what you do and connect with you?
Yeah, no, check me out on LinkedIn, check me out on Twitter. I share a ton of B2B SaaS data. So we have millions of dollars of spend under management. And so I share all that. Like just today, I tweeted about, I'm shared on LinkedIn, the best time of day to advertise in SaaS, when you have the lowest cost per acquisition, when you have the cheapest cost per click, when you have the most volume, what day, what time, what hour. So yeah, if you ever want to just any more details and insights, follow me on social. And if you want a proposal and you're got funding and you're ready to spend heavily on this, feel free to go to our website, directiveconsulting.com. And if you want to learn it, go to directiveconsulting.com/institute, and we'll teach you everything we do when it comes to SEO and PPC. And it'll be a great investment for $99.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you, Natalie.